Hello everyone, this is Damian coming to you from Belgium once again to create another Lemonade video. I'm wearing my Lemonade t-shirt again, brought back from Investor Day by a fellow Lemonader in our X community. I won't name him because I don't want him to be accused of stealing a t-shirt, but I'm very happy with it, so thank you once again. And Lemonade has announced another Investor Day, which will be held on November 19th, 2024. I would very much like to go there. I will come back to that later in the video, but it's invitation only, so people working at Lemonade, if I could come to Investor Day, if you would grant me an invitation, I would very much like to accept it. So let's have a look. What will we discuss today? Well, basically, I'm going to make two videos for you. I've done a lot of research, put a lot of effort into creating these, both the model that I will show you and its results, as well as the video itself. As you know, English is not my first language, so bear with me if I stumble a bit and don't find the right word, but I will do my best. Let's have a look at what's on the menu for today, right? First, we will start by discussing Lemonade's product mix. Now, Lemonade's product mix is not something they normally disclose, right? But I think I've managed to piece it together and how their product mix changes throughout time, or has changed throughout time. Then, second of all, we will look at the gross loss ratio over time. Not the total gross loss ratio, that's easy, they publish it, but really the gross loss ratio over time for each individual product line, which is something they don't publish and is something that is very interesting, especially when you try to model out into the future. And once again, I think I have managed to find out what the gross loss ratio for each product line is and how it has changed throughout time. It's related to the product mix as well, but we will look at them separately in this video. And then finally, we will look at the gross loss ratio excluding home and catastrophes. As you will see, that home and catastrophes are really what is causing the loss ratio to be elevated. And if Lemonade wouldn't be offering home policies, we would have a completely different look on their loss ratio, right? Would be completely different. Okay, let's start with the product mix. The graph you will see is a graph that I created using my Lemonade model, or at least a model specifically designed to find out this product mix and the loss ratios. And if you want to know the details of this model and look at my calculations, I will explain those in a separate video. Okay, so in this video we will only look at the results, the graphs that were created with the model. If you want to know the details, you can watch the second video. Okay, what do we see here on this graph? Well, a line for each individual product line, and let's go through them one by one. Let's start with the light blue one, which is life. Life insurance is a very small part of Lemonade's business. We don't really know how small, we just know that it's small. That was set at Investor Day back in 2022. So I've just guessed that it's around 3% of their total in-force premium, and that has remained steady throughout time. Now, I'm actually not really certain of this number, could be lower, could be higher, but since it's small, it doesn't really matter, okay? So the loss ratio of life as well, since it's such a small part of their business, it's not really influential. It doesn't really matter that much. So I've just set it at 3% constant throughout time. This is something we have very little information about, but we do know that actually it's quite irrelevant. So let's look at the four other lines, which are way more interesting. The dark blue line is car insurance, and you can see a big spike going from Q2 22 to Q3 22, which is when they acquired Metromile, a car insurance company. So this, of course, dramatically increased their book of business for car, going from basically almost zero up to around 18% of total in-force premium. Then after this Metromile acquisition, you can see the dark blue line steadily coming down, right? That's because they announced that once they acquired Metromile, they wouldn't be promoting it, they wouldn't advertise the Metromile product, it wasn't making a profit either. So, and their lemonade car product, which is separate from Metromile, had just launched, and they are trying to building out the technology. Also not yet turning a profit. So basically they haven't been promoting car, and it has slowly decreased in as a portion of their total in-force premium. We can see the same thing happening for home, right? Home is becoming a smaller and smaller part of their book of business, and we will see why in a second. Basically, it's because they are not making a profit on home yet. It's tough to make a profit on home, right? You have to gather a lot of data to do decent underwriting, and gathering a lot of data means dealing with a lot of claims, which is very costly in the case of home because these are big claims. And so basically we must conclude Lemonade hasn't figured home out yet, or at least maybe they did, but the regulators don't allow for rate hikes, etc., etc. So this leads to home becoming a lesser and lesser part of their business, because they are promoting the two other products which are profitable, which is pet insurance and renters insurance. So you can see the green and the pink line steadily going up throughout time, except in the beginning when they dropped because of the rise of car insurance when they bought Metromile. So post Metromile acquisition, pet and renters is going up and car and home is going down. Makes sense. Pet and renters make money, car and home lose money, so we are advertising the profitable parts of the business. That's fine. Okay, now that we know how this is going, and if you want to have a look at the absolute numbers or the numbers, you can read them here on the graph. But let's move on and let's have a look at the gross loss ratio over time. Once again, I'm not talking about the total gross loss ratio, I'm talking about the loss ratio for each individual product line. And for those of you who follow Lemonade closely, you might remember this graph. This graph was given to us in the Q2 of 2023 shareholder letter, and it shows the gross loss ratio over time of some of their product lines, renters, pets, as well as home, but the home is excluding the cat events, the catastrophic events, which lead to a lot of claims that have caused, well, a lot of high value claims. Right? And these three lines that they gave us, they are all going down, which is of course good news, and they said as much in the letter. They said we're encouraged by these underlying improvements, and we believe it is a solid signal that our ongoing loss ratio efforts, including improved underwriting and consistent rate filings, will continue to bear fruit. So a very positive text with a very positive graph. However, why didn't they include each product line on this graph, right? It's a bit suspicious, and you might suspect that maybe they didn't show it because the other lines aren't really going that well, right? Maybe the loss ratio for home with cat and for car and for life maybe isn't really going down over time. And they didn't tell us, so we have to do some digging and try to piece it together ourselves. And I will show you what I came up with in a second, and we will see that indeed they left it out of this graph because it's actually bad news. So I won't shy away from showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're going to find some ugly things in here. Let's first change the dimensions of this graph a bit, and now I will overlay the graph that I made with my model. And you will see that these three lines that are given here will match exactly the lines in the figure that I'm about to show you. This is not a coincidence, of course. I created the model based on everything Lemonade has reported, so these lines as well. So it's not a coincidence that it's a perfect match, but still it's a nice transition, and I would like to show it to you. Okay, here we go. The three lines are still there, but all the other lines, as well as the continuation of those lines into the future, come into view. And here we have the gross loss ratios for each product line throughout time. Okay, there's a lot to discuss here, right? So let's first look at the light blue line. Again, this is the life line. Basically, we don't know anything about the loss ratio of life, or at least I haven't been able to find it. So I've just set it at 70% constant throughout time. We can assume it's possible given what they said at the previous investor day, but we don't know how profitable, and still it's a negligible part of their business. So let's just set it at 70% and don't think about it anymore. The other lines are way more important, way more interesting. Let's first look at the green and the pink lines. Those are pet and renters, and in the graph they showed us, let's maybe have a look at it side by side. They were going down, and as you can see, even into the future, based on my model, they continued to go down. So that's great. Okay, now let's look at the lines that weren't included on this graph. And let's start with car insurance, right? Car insurance is the dark blue line, and you can see in the time frame that they showed this graph, from 22 Q1 to 23 Q2, that car insurance loss ratio was actually going up. And not a little, it was going up a lot. It started in the 80s and it went up all the way to above 130%, right? Which is absolutely terrible, okay? 130% loss ratio is very bad, and not only is it extremely high, but it isn't even decreasing, it's increasing, right? So that's why they didn't show the line on their graph in the shareholder letter, because it would look very bad, because it is very bad, okay? Now let's have a look at home insurance. You can see they showed us the light pink line coming down from 110% down to 69%, and they were very happy about that. But now let's include the catastrophic events, right? So it's suspicious that they excluded them. Let's include them. And as you can see on my graph, the orange one is the catastrophic home claims, home loss ratio, and it's going up by a lot during this time frame. And when you add the orange line to the light pink line to get the total home claims, the total home loss ratio, and I'm assuming here that all cat claims impact the home loss ratio, so some cat might impact car or something else, but a good first order approximation is that all cat claims are related to home. Then you end up with this yellow line at the top, and at the top is bad news, right? These have the highest loss ratio. And as you can see, basically from Q1 22 up until Q1 24, the yellow home loss ratio has always been above 100%, even far above the 100%. And in the time frame that they showed in their graph in the shareholder letter, it went up from in 130% up to 170%, right? Similar story as with the car. Not only is it terribly high, the loss ratio, it isn't even decreasing, right? It's increasing. So this is really, really terrible, and that's why they didn't show it. I told you I was going to say, tell you the good news, the bad news, and the ugly news. Well, this is the bad news, but I think the ugly news is that they didn't show it, right? So I really would like to Lemonade to just show us everything. The good news and the bad news. Now they're trying to hide it from us, and they're quite successful, but because as far as I can tell, nobody has figured out what the total loss ratio is and for home, and I'm the first one to do so here. Maybe I've missed something. Please let me know in the comments. But still, we're going to find out sooner or later, and it's very bad. I would prefer they just come clean about it. Just tell us the bad news. Tell us why the loss ratio is high and how they're going to fix it. But now they're trying to hide it from us, and I really don't like it. So please just be candid. give us investors everything that we need to know to assess the business. Okay? Because not only did they give us this graph, they also gave us some sentences in the letter. So let's see what they said, right? They said at the time, our homeowner's gross loss ratio, excluding cat, was in the 60s for the first time. Wow, ain't that great? And of course I'm being sarcastic because their actual homeowner's loss ratio, including cat, was 170%, right? Which is absolutely terrible. So they're really cherry picking here and saying, okay, let's exclude cat and then everything looks fine. Yes, well, cat is real. You shouldn't exclude it, you shouldn't hide it. You should just say, okay, homeowners isn't doing that great and we're going to fix it. Here's why and here's how, instead of trying to hide it from us. Okay, what else did they say? Well, they said that for our newest product, car, we've not yet made material improvements in the gross loss ratio. Right? This is in the same shareholder letter, they're saying that. Yes, indeed, you haven't made material improvements in the gross loss ratio. In fact, you haven't made any improvements in the gross loss ratio. The gross loss ratio has gone up from in the 80s up to in the 130s, right? According to my model. Now, maybe I'm off by a bit. If you don't want me to be off, just publish the numbers, right? Then we can know the real numbers, but still my model gives me very bad news, and again they are hiding it from us and I really don't like it. Okay, I'm a shareholder, I want to support the company, but I expect honesty and not misleading comments like this, because they're saying we've not yet made material improvements, which makes it sound like they've made some improvements but they're not material yet. Well, there are no improvements in the loss ratio. Maybe they improved the product. That's something else. Here they're talking about improvements in the gross loss ratio, and there haven't been any improvements in the gross loss ratio in the time frame they are showing in their graph. So you shouldn't try to phrase it to make it sound like something positive. It's just bad, okay? And just tell us we can handle it. Okay. Next, what else did they say? They said, in related news, our team is conducting a thorough review of our book of homeowners business. Okay, great. We can see in my graph from my model why that would be. The loss ratio of homeowners was 170%. And they conclude it's clear that a portion of our book should not be renewed based on the learnings we've accumulated. Okay, perfect. So even with rate hikes being approved, they are saying here it's clear we should just non-renew some policies. And I think that it's quite a lot of policies, right? They gave us a number in the letter as well, but I think in the quarters after they published this, there has been a lot of non-renewals of home policies. Okay. What else did they say? These non-renewals will be an ongoing process with a lagging impact, but we believe we'll see it deliver a double-digit impact on our loss ratio over the next couple of years. It's been a year since they published this, and I wouldn't be surprised if it already has a double-digit impact on their loss ratio, but that would mean they have non-renewed a lot of policies, which would be good for a loss ratio, but it would be bad for in-force premium as well as for annual dollar retention metrics. Okay. This graph, I think it's very interesting. You can also look a bit further out in time, right, to the most recent quarters. Again, I will explain in the other video how I managed to arrive at this graph and these numbers, but I think it's very interesting. Feel free to pause the video and have a closer look at it. I must say that for the final quarter, Q1 of 2024, we have very little information. In the shareholder letter, there was basically no information or very little that helped me fine-tune the parameters in the model. So basically for the loss ratios of Q1, I mostly assumed that they stayed constant from Q4. As you can see on the right-hand side of this graph, I just, for pet renters car, I just assumed, in life, I just assumed them to stay constant. Only home changed a bit, which I managed to figure out using their gross loss ratio and their gross loss ratio without cat, which they published. But once again, I must say, for Q1, there's quite a bit of uncertainty in these numbers because they didn't really give us any information in the final or the most recent shareholder letter. Okay. Lastly, let's have a look at the loss ratio without home and catastrophes, right? So we've seen before car not doing great, home terrible. So what would Lemonade's loss ratio look like if we just excluded home? What if they didn't offer any home insurance? Well, it would actually look great. Right? As you can see here, this is a new weighted average of the loss ratios of each individual line, but excluding the home line. And you can see that we are in the 60s, right, for a loss ratio. So if Lemonade just basically does these non-renewals and stops selling home policies, we should see loss ratios coming down to 65%. That's where they would be right now if they didn't have home, right? So I'm actually very optimistic. I'm not saying that they should just stop doing home insurance entirely. I'm confident that in time they will figure out their pricing. But for now, it hasn't worked out so far. Maybe they just need more rate hikes. Maybe they just need more data for their machine learning algorithms and their AI model, probably both. I think in time they will get there, but it will take time, okay? So for now, if we just exclude this, just to think about where they could end up in the future, well, you can see basically the rest of the business is quite healthy, even including car insurance, which is still not turning a profit, right? So I'm actually very hopeful, right? As I said, I'm a shareholder in the company, I'm a big supporter, but I would really appreciate it if management didn't try to hide the bad news from us. I hope I've been able to provide you with some value in this video. If you like to know the details, you can find those out in my other video. And then I would ask you for a final favor. It took a while to build this model and to create this video. I'm sharing my knowledge with you for free, but if you think I've provided you with some value and you would like to give me a donation, that would be very much appreciated, because I would really like to come to Investor Day and meet you all. But I live in Belgium, so coming to Investor Day would mean I have to fly across the Atlantic and stay in New York City, which is quite expensive. So I don't want to sell any Lemonade shares to do so, but I would really like to come. So if you would like to give me a donation for the work I've done and shared here, then feel free to do so. You can just send me a DM on YouTube or on X, and then I can give you my PayPal address or some other way you can send me money. Even if it's just $1, would be very much appreciated. Just give whatever you think this information is worth to you, and then maybe I can make it out to Investor Day. That would be absolutely awesome, just like insurance. Come and watch the second video if you would like to know the details of the model. I'm happy to explain it to you. Bye.